people, when you ask them, they're perhaps thinking that they need to be a peak performer, as that's what they're aiming for. But you have a very cool distinction around
Yeah.
this difference between the two.
Yeah. Peak. I mean, peak performance is, well, I'll start by people. When I was thinking about this, people were always saying, "Yo, you Navy SEALs are the ultimate peak performers," and I used to disagree with that because peak performance by definition is an apex. Peak by definition is an apex, and
Mm,
there's only one place you can go from an apex. That's down. The other thing about peak performance is that it often has to be planned for and scheduled and prepared for. So the professional football player plans and schedules his or her entire week so they can peak for 3 hours on game day. We don't get to do that. Navy SEALs don't get to do that. None of us get to do that unless or you're a pro athlete and you're not telling us. But we have to perform with what we've got in the moment. And so optimal performance, I used to say we're optimal performance. Optimal performance means we are going to do our very best in the moment, whatever the best looks like in that moment. Now, sometimes our best in the moment looks like peak, and it's flow states and everything's clicking and everything's awesome, everything's cool. But sometimes our best in the moment is I am literally head down, slogging it out, going step by step, and it's dirty and it's gritty and it's ugly and it's hard. And that is still performing optimally. And so optimal performance allows us to think about the performance as this umbrella underneath which peak lives and gutting it out lives and even recovery lives. And we're constantly modulating ourselves because a couple things happen there. A couple important things about optimal performance. First of all, it allows us to celebrate those times when we are not at peak, which is important. But it also allows us to do what I call responsible energy management. In other words, I don't need to be peak when I'm driving to the grocery store. I can manage
mm,
my energy. One of the things you'll see, or your audience might see when they watch all the TV shows and movies about Navy SEALs, they might see a group of SEALs getting ready to go do a mission, and right before they run out to the helicopter, they all kind of huddle up and they're hoo-yawing and high-fiving and all that stuff. That never happens ever. Okay. In fact, most of the time we'd be in our helicopters flying into combat, and the guys around me would be asleep. They'd be napping. And
mm.
there's a reason for that. Is because we're not going to waste an ounce of our energy doing things we don't need to do.